Today I get to talk to Colony House's Caleb Chapman. You guys are on tour in Seattle?
This is the last of 3 stops. The last stop is actually in Toronto. So we got 3 more: Seattle, Denver, Toronto.
And then you're going to be playing the Grand Ole Opry in May.
That's right. That's a big deal for these Tennessee boys.
And I see Stephen Curtis Chapman, Grand Ole Opry. Is that your dad?
That's right.
Okay,
That's
and
my dad.
He's a multi-platinum selling artist.
He is. He's kind of what the kids are calling the GOAT. He's amazing. Yeah, he's had an incredible career, and we're lucky to have him as our biggest fan. He'll be playing there as well. He's kind of a regular at the Opry. He's kind of on his way to being inducted, if I think so. Rumor has it. But yeah, so when we got asked to play the Opry, we were like, man, it'd be cool, because my dad does it once a month, maybe
wow.
I don't know. And so we were kind of like, we should try to figure it out where we can pick a week where my dad's doing it as well. So we kind of planned it together so we could share the stage at the Opry, because that's kind of it's a big deal. And so we wanted to do it together if we could manage it.
And it's going to be awesome to hear how your new music sounds in that venue.
In that context. I know, right? We're like, how do we do this? Because it's a different vibe. You're playing with the Opry band, and it's kind of its own thing. So we're gonna try to lean in a little bit to whatever twang exists in Colony House.
When I heard this album, I was like, did they add band members? Because it sounds like there's more than 4 of you playing on this album. The landlocked surf rock is pretty awesome. And that's what you're calling it, right? And that's the first song of the album. That's the first song.
And that's kind of like ascribing that as our self-given genre, landlocked surf rock.
Yeah, that's awesome that you have your own genre. So the Cannonballers is the album that just dropped in February. The title track, the Cannonballers, you can't help but move to that song. It's a really good song.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It sounds like something Quentin Tarantino would use in his movies. And he's got one that he's going to be working on his last movie. You should push this a little bit.
Yeah, we gotta get it in advance. That's a good idea. I'll call the team when we hang up.
Yeah.
I mean, we've loved surf rock, surf guitars specifically. It's kind of like the base of that kind of genre of music, or the foundation, to be clear. There's kind of this strange common thread that runs between like surf music and then also like rockabilly. And rockabilly is probably what we're a little more familiar with down south in Tennessee. And so I think that's where kind of the two worlds collided on the Cannonballers. Is there's this kind of like, especially on the song Cannonballers, the haunting rock and roll kind of feeling that then is met with this like kind of almost hip hop influenced drum break for the chorus. I don't know. It's a hodgepodge of a song that it was just in the studio. We were making sure we were still having fun, and that's the product. We were like, guys, are we all having fun? Because if not, we need to start from ground zero. And we all looked around and we're like, we need to start from ground zero. And then we started recording Cannonballers. That was us having fun in the studio.
And you kind of switched things up when it came to recording this album compared to the last 3.
That's right. Yeah, we've recorded everything in Nashville for the first 3 albums, and whatever else we've done has all been Nashville. And so we're like, man, it would be good just to see what happens if we take this outside of Tennessee and get out of our normal comfort zone and just see what happens. So we worked with a producer that we've wanted to work with for a long time named Chad Copeland out in Norman, Oklahoma. And then he really likes working out of a studio in El Paso called Sonic Ranch. So we spent a little bit of time down there as well. So between Texas and Oklahoma, that's where the Cannonballers was born, where it was all built.
And it's born from a lot of feelings about what you were feeling, what everybody was thinking, too, during the pandemic. I've noticed a lot of the lyrics mirror what we were all feeling.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, we were trying our best not to make a COVID album. When COVID happened and everyone's like, what are we going to do at this time?
Yeah.
The natural thing for a lot of musicians was like, well, let's just go into the studio. For us, it was like, I don't want that to be the inspiration. I don't want the inspiration to be, well, what else can we do? Let's do this. And so we kind of took that time, as opposed to going like real deep into the studio. It was more of just, let's take this time to rest, observe what's happening around us, take notes, and obviously write. But then as things loosened up a little bit, that's when we started getting into the studio, and all of those thoughts and, us processing what the whole world was processing started coming out in the studio.
Before the pandemic, you were touring heavy. So did you make a movie or something out of tour footage, and what happened with that?
Yeah, that was a big project during the pandemic. Is we were in the middle of a tour when it all hit. We were actually in Seattle when it started kind of breaking.
Where you are today.
Closing down. Yeah, exactly. And so I started editing some video stuff together, and just to I don't know, maybe there's a live version of a song from one of these shows we played. And little by little, as I dug deeper into the making of the album, behind the scenes footage from this trip we had taken to capture a lot of the music videos and stuff, I was like, man, there's actually a really kind of compelling story here that talks about the life of this band and how we've been met with challenges along the way and roadblocks that seem to want to throw this whole thing off the track. And the movie was kind of talking to that and how we deal with it, and using obviously the pandemic as the biggest and most current example of what do you do when something stops you in your tracks. There has to be other ways to communicate and to spread the love that you've been trying to spread through your music. So yeah, I ended up making this feature-length film. We invited people down to Franklin and did this huge, socially distant drive-in event. Sorry if you hear the ambiance of Seattle. So we did this huge drive-in event where I think it was 2,000 people came down from all over the country, drove their cars. We set up this huge video wall and premiered the film outdoor, and then played a concert, a drive-in style concert for all of our friends that drove into Franklin. It was so cool. It felt like an exhale of sorts, a big group hug of everyone's been cooped up, and just to even be in this proximity of everyone and be singing these songs again together was a huge moment for the band.
It's a great way to get people together safely with music. What an awesome thing to do.
It was special.
And you played music from
Well, at that point, it was our last album, Leave What's Lost Behind. And it's because we didn't get to finish that tour. We did 14 shows on it. And then we were like, man, these songs, much more life in them. How can we give that to people? And so that was the moment for that album. I feel like that album made more sense even in the context of the pandemic, which is crazy because it came out before it. But, you know, everything has a reason.
Well, it'll be one of those albums that a lot of people, especially the people that were there, will remember, but coming back to a good feeling about the pandemic.
Yeah, it's just a heavy, heavy place for the whole world, for sure.
So your brother's the drummer, and how did you all get together and form this band?
Me and Will have been playing music together since the very beginning, like kindergarten, pretty much. And then after high school, we really started leaning into wanting to do the band thing full time. And my cousin introduced us to one of his friends from college, and his name was Scott Mills. And Scotty plays guitar in the band and has since pretty much the day my cousin was like, hey, if you ever need a guitar player, my best buddy in college is really great. And so that was literally how we met Scott. He grew up in Knoxville, and his best friend all growing up always talked about his other friend, Parke, Cottrell, who's also from Knoxville. And they were like, man, Parke, he goes to a different school, but he's so cool. And pretty much, well, very long story short, we were needing someone to open a show for us in Knoxville. And Scott was, well, my best buddy always talked about this guy named Parke and that he's really cool, and maybe we could get him. So Parke was doing a solo act at the time, opened our show in Knoxville. We met a couple years later. We needed someone to fill in for bass, and he did such a great job. We called Parke. We were like, you're a really talented guy. Can you play bass? And he's like, I'll figure it out. And he did, and it was good enough for us to add him to the fold.
That's
a very abbreviated version. But, yeah, more or less how it went.
And now you've been together, what, around 10 years, a decade?
Yeah, I mean, our first album turns 10 next year. So, yeah.
Before that one dropped, how long were you guys together?
Me, Will, and Scott had been trying to figure things out for, probably as the very beginning stages of this, we're getting close to 15 years probably, that just makes me feel old. So we'll keep it at 10 years.
Okay. So, and you guys are all happily playing together tonight in Seattle. You're going to be at the Gothic Theatre in Inglewood Thursday, and then coming to Toronto. So you're going to be in Canada April 14th at the Access Club for a 7 o'clock show. And then Grand Ole Opry. Do you guys have any festivals or anything you're doing in the summer?
We got our hometown festival of Bonnaroo.
Ooh.
And then, I think summer is pretty chill for us. We want to just keep making music right now, feeling inspired. So we're planning on getting back into the studio as fast as we can after this tour ends.
All right, that sounds great. Well, I'm going to let you go so you can get ready for your show tonight. Good luck with that, and hopefully we'll be seeing you in Toronto.
Oh, yeah, we'll be there. We're bringing quite the show. So, if you're out there and you want to see a bunch of Tennessee boys play some rock and roll, come on out.